You won't always get another chance. So act like this one matters. Every day you delay, you're gambling with the one thing you can't get back: time. The Stoic lives with death on his shoulder, not to panic, but to prioritize, to strip away the trivial, to act decisively, to speak the truth now, not later. There is no later, only this, only now, only today. You want to live fully? Then live finally. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? You gamble with time like it's endless, but every day is a coin you never get back. Listen to me carefully. You are dying, not tomorrow, not someday, right now. With every breath you take, you move closer to your final one. This is not meant to frighten you into paralysis. It is meant to wake you from the sleep of assumption. Most people live as if they have forever. They postpone the difficult conversations. They delay the meaningful work. They wait for the perfect moment to begin living authentically. But there is no perfect moment. There is only this moment. And this moment is slipping away while you hesitate. I ruled the greatest empire the world had ever known. I commanded legions across continents. I held the power of life and death over millions. Yet every morning I reminded myself of one simple truth: today could be my last. Not because I feared death, but because I refused to waste life. When you truly accept that your time is limited, something profound happens. The noise fades. The distractions lose their grip. The petty concerns that consume most people's days reveal themselves for what they are: dust in the wind. You begin to see clearly what matters and what doesn't. Here's what most people don't understand about mortality. It's not your enemy. It's your greatest teacher. It strips away everything false and leaves only what is true. It shows you that the argument with your brother is meaningless compared to the love you share. It reveals that the work that brings you alive is more important than the work that merely pays the bills. Death is the great equalizer, yes. But more than that, it's the great clarifier. When you remember that your days are numbered, you stop numbering your petty grievances. When you remember that your breath is borrowed, you stop wasting it on empty words. You think you have time. You think you have chances. You think you have opportunities stretching endlessly ahead of you. But look around you. Where are the people who thought the same thing last year, last month, last week? Some of them are gone. Their time ran out while they were still waiting for the right moment to begin. The Roman legions I commanded understood this principle perfectly. Yet before every battle, they prepared for death, not out of despair, but out of wisdom. They knew that accepting death's certainty made them fearless in life. They fought harder because they knew each battle could be their last. They loved deeper because they knew each embrace might be final. This is your call to arms, not against an enemy army, but against the illusion of endless time. Stop living like you have decades to waste. Stop acting like your dreams can wait. Stop believing that meaningful conversations can be postponed indefinitely. Today is not a rehearsal. It is the performance, and you may not get an encore. When you remember it ends, you finally start to live. Urgency creates clarity. A flower is beautiful precisely because it wilts. A sunset moves you because darkness follows. Your life gains meaning not despite its brevity, but because of it. Remove the deadline and passion dies. Remove the finish line and the race becomes meaningless. I have watched men discover they had months to live, and in those months they lived more fully than in all their previous years combined. Why? Because mortality gave them permission to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop waiting for someday, and start living today. This is the paradox that most people never grasp. The certainty of death makes life infinitely more precious. When you know something is finite, you treat it with reverence. When you believe something is endless, you waste it carelessly. Think of the relationships in your life right now. Which ones receive your full attention? Which conversations do you approach with complete presence? If you're honest, Probably very few. Most people give their leftover energy to the people they claim to love most. They save their best behavior for strangers and their worst for family. But let me ask you this. If you knew today was your last day with someone you love, would you spend it checking your phone? Would you half listen while mentally planning tomorrow's tasks? Would you let petty irritations overshadow profound connection? Of course not. You would be completely present. You would listen as if their words were the most important sounds in the world. You would look at them as if you were trying to memorize their face. You would speak from your heart, not from habit. Here's the truth that changes everything. Every day with someone you love could be your last day with them. Every conversation could be your final conversation. Every goodbye could be forever. This isn't morbid thinking. It's magnificent thinking. It transforms ordinary moments into sacred ones. I have buried children, friends, enemies, and strangers. I have seen how quickly life can vanish, not in dramatic fashion, not with warning or ceremony, but quietly, unexpectedly, permanently. The people who left us didn't know they were leaving. They had plans. They had unfinished conversations. They had words they meant to say. You are not different. You are not exempt. Your time is just as uncertain, just as precious, just as fleeting. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Most people hear about mortality and feel fear. The wise hear about mortality and feel freedom. Freedom from the trivial pursuits that consume so much time. Freedom from the need to impress people who don't matter. Freedom from anxiety about a future that may never come. When death becomes your teacher instead of your terror, everything shifts. You stop accumulating and start experiencing. You stop performing and start being. You stop rushing towards some imaginary finish line and start appreciating the ground beneath your feet right now. The urgency that comes from understanding mortality isn't frantic energy. It's focused energy. It's the difference between running around frantically and walking with clear purpose. Both involve movement, but only one reaches the destination. This focused urgency makes you selective about everything. Your time becomes too valuable to waste on meaningless activities. Your energy becomes too precious to squander on toxic relationships. Your attention becomes too sacred to give away carelessly. Mortality doesn't diminish life. It concentrates. It, like sunlight through a magnifying glass, the awareness of death focuses your existence into something powerful enough to ignite meaning. Postponed dreams rot. Unspoken truths sting. Later is a silent killer. The most dangerous word in any language is later. It promises action while delivering nothing. It sounds reasonable while being completely irrational. It offers comfort while creating regret. Later is the thief that steals your life one postponed moment at a time. I have stood at the deathbeds of great men who whispered not about their achievements, but about their delays. They didn't regret the risks they took. They regretted the risks they didn't take. They didn't mourn their failures. They mourned their hesitations. Their final words weren't about what they did wrong, but about what they never did at all. Later tells you that time is abundant. It whispers that opportunities multiply rather than diminish. It promises that energy increases with age rather than decreases. It lies with such confidence that you believe it completely. But let me ask you this. What have you been putting off until later? What conversation have you been avoiding? What dream have you been delaying? What truth have you been postponing? Write it down. Look at it. That postponement is not just a delay. It's a betrayal of your deepest self. Every day you say later, you're making a bet. You're betting that tomorrow will be better than today. You're betting that future you will be braver than present you. You're betting that circumstances will align more perfectly in the future than they do right now. How often have you won that bet? The truth is cruel but clear. Conditions rarely improve by waiting. Your fear doesn't decrease with time. It compounds. Your energy doesn't increase with age. It diminishes. Your opportunities don't multiply with delay. They expire. Later is almost always worse than now. I learned this lesson on the battlefield. When facing an enemy, hesitation kills, not just literally, but strategically. The moment of advantage passes quickly. The perfect opening closes. The opportunity for victory disappears while you're still calculating the perfect plan. Life operates by the same principle. The moment to speak your truth is now, while you still have the courage. The moment to start your dream is now, while you still have the energy. The moment to repair the relationship is now, while the other person is still alive to hear you. But let me tell you what later really means. Later means when you're too old to take risks. Later means when the person you love is gone. Later means when your health fails. Later means when your passion fades. Later means never. Here's what most people don't understand about opportunity. It has an expiration date. That business idea you're perfecting, someone else is already building it. That person you want to apologize to, they're slowly building walls around their heart. That adventure you're planning, your body is aging while you wait. The tragedy isn't that we don't have enough time. The tragedy is that we waste the time we have waiting for better time. We postpone living while waiting for perfect conditions that never arrive. We delay meaning while pursuing security that doesn't exist. I have seen empires fall while their leaders planned for tomorrow. I have watched armies defeat themselves through hesitation. I have observed brilliant minds waste away while waiting for the perfect moment to act. The pattern is always the same. Later becomes never, and never becomes regret. Stop negotiating with time as if you're in control. Stop acting as if delay is a luxury you can afford. Stop believing that later is a promise rather than a postponement. Your later is not guaranteed. Your tomorrow is not promised. Your someday may never come. All you have is this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. Use it. Act on it. Live it. Now strip the day down. What's left? That's where your energy belongs. Imagine you have only 24 hours left to live. What would you do? More importantly, what would you stop doing? The activities that suddenly seem meaningless in that scenario, those are the activities that are meaningless right now. You just haven't been honest enough to admit it. Most people fill their days with elaborate distractions from what actually matters. They busy themselves with tasks that feel urgent but accomplish nothing lasting. They chase achievements that impress others but satisfy no one. They accumulate possessions that rust, relationships that drain them, and experiences that leave them empty. I ruled an empire, but I learned early that power over others means nothing if you have no power over yourself. I commanded armies, but the greatest victory was commanding my own attention. I had access to every luxury Rome could offer, but the greatest wealth was knowing what I actually needed. Here's the test that separates the essential from the trivial. Ask yourself, will this matter when I'm dying? Not, will this matter next week? Or, will this matter next year? Will this matter when you're taking your final breaths? The argument with your coworker? It won't matter. The social media post that offended you? It won't matter. The promotion you didn't get? It won't matter. The expensive car your neighbor bought? It won't matter. The gossip about the celebrity? It won't matter. But let me ask you this. How much time did you spend on those things yesterday? How much energy did you invest in concerns that won't matter when your time runs out? How much of your precious life did you waste on the meaningless? What will matter is the love you gave and received, the lives you touched, the growth you experienced, the courage you showed, the truth you spoke, the beauty you created or appreciated, the moments of genuine connection, the times you chose meaning over comfort. Strip away everything else, all. The noise, all the drama, all the distractions. What remains? That residue, that essence. That's where your focus belongs. Not tomorrow. Not when you have more time. Right now, I spent years learning to distinguish between what seemed important and what was actually important. The difference is profound. What seems important is usually urgent, loud, and demanding. What is actually important is often quiet, impatient and easily overlooked. Your phone buzzes with what seems important, notifications, messages, updates that feel urgent, but what's actually important sits silently waiting, the book that could change your thinking, the conversation that could heal a relationship, the skill that could transform your career, the moment of stillness that could restore your soul. Here's what most people don't understand about priorities. You don't find time for what matters. You make time by eliminating what doesn't. Every yes to the trivial is a no to the essential. Every moment spent on the meaningless is a moment stolen from the meaningful. The Roman Senate would debate for hours about matters that history forgot within months. But the principles we lived by, courage, justice, wisdom, temperance, those outlasted the empire itself. The temporary consumed their time. The eternal consumed their character. You face the same choice every day. You can spend your energy on what will be forgotten, or you can invest it in what will endure. You can chase what impresses others today, or you can build what will matter forever. Stop pretending you don't know the difference. Deep down, you know what matters and what doesn't. You know which relationships deserve your best energy and which ones drain you. You know which work brings meaning and which work brings only money. You know which activities feed your soul and which ones numb it. The question isn't what matters. The question is whether you have the courage to live according to what matters, whether you can strip away the excess and focus on the essence, whether you can ignore the urgent and honor the important. Your time is finite, your energy is limited, your attention is precious. Stop giving these gifts to what doesn't deserve them. Wishing is wasted breath. Do it. Say it. Be it. Now. The road to mediocrity is paved with good intentions. The graveyard of dreams is filled with people who meant to act but never did. Intentions. Without action is not nobility. It's self-deception disguised as virtue. I have met countless people who spoke beautifully about what they planned to do. They had elaborate visions, detailed strategies, perfect timing mapped out. They could describe their dreams with passionate eloquence. But they could not take the first step to make them real. Here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't care about your intentions. Life doesn't reward you for meaning well. History doesn't remember the people who almost acted. Only action creates results. Only movement generates momentum. Only doing produces becoming. You can intend to write a book for 20 years, but you're not a writer until you write. You can plan to start a business for decades, but you're not an entrepreneur until you launch. You can mean to repair a relationship forever, but you're not reconciled until you pick up the phone. The gap between intention and action is where dreams go to die. It's comfortable in that gap. It's safe. You can't fail if you never try. You can't be rejected if you never ask. You can't be criticized if you never create. But you also can't succeed. You can't connect. You can't contribute. I led armies across treacherous terrain, but the most dangerous territory was always the space between deciding and doing. That's where doubt breeds. That's where fear multiplies. That's where excuses flourish. That's where good intentions rot into regret. But let me ask you this. What are you intending to do that you haven't done? What conversation have you been meaning to have? What project have you been planning to start? What change have you been intending to make? How long have you been carrying these intentions? And what has changed while you waited? Nothing changes without action. Your health doesn't improve because you intend to exercise. Your relationships don't heal because you plan to communicate better. Your skills don't develop because you mean to practice. Your dreams don't manifest because you wish for them intensely. The Roman Empire wasn't built on intentions. It was built on actions. Every road, every aqueduct, every building required someone to stop planning and start building. Every victory required someone to stop strategizing and start fighting. Every law required someone to stop debating and start deciding. Here's what most people don't understand about action. It doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. The first step doesn't have to be the right step. It just has to be a step. You can adjust direction while moving. You can improve while doing. You can learn while acting. But you can't get anywhere while standing still. The perfectionist never acts because conditions are never perfect. The procrastinator never acts because time is never right. The pessimist never acts because outcomes are never guaranteed. But the person who changes their life acts despite imperfect conditions, imperfect timing, and imperfect guarantees. Stop collecting intentions like trophies. Stop polishing plans that never get executed. Stop rehearsing conversations that never happen. Stop preparing for a life you never live. Your intentions mean nothing if they don't translate into action. Your dreams mean nothing if they don't drive you to move. Your values mean nothing if they don't influence your choices. Your wisdom means nothing if it doesn't change your behavior. The distance between where you are and where you want to be isn't measured in time. It's measured in actions. Every day you don't act is a day you remain exactly where you are. Every week you postpone is a week you stay exactly who you are. Every month you delay is a month you keep exactly what you have. But here's the beautiful truth about action. It creates its own momentum. The first step leads to the second. The first word leads to the conversation. The first page leads to the book. The first day leads to the habit. Action begets action. Movement creates movement. Doing generates more doing. Stop meaning to live and start living. Stop planning to act and start acting. Stop intending to change and start changing. The world is waiting for what you can contribute, not what you plan to contribute. Do it, say it, be it. Now, you might never get another chance. Say what you mean today. The most tragic words ever spoken are not, "I hate you," or "I'm leaving." The most tragic words are, "I never told them. I never told them I loved them. I never told them I was proud. I never told them I forgave them. I never told them the truth that could have changed everything." Every day you remain silent about what matters. You gamble with opportunity. You bet that tomorrow will be safer than today. You wager that next week will be easier than this week. You assume that the person you need to speak to will always be there, ready to listen, willing to hear. But silence isn't safety. It's surrender. Every unspoken truth becomes a weight you carry. Every avoided conversation becomes a wall between you and connection. Every postponed apology becomes a hardened resentment. Every delayed expression of love becomes a missed chance to heal or help or honor someone who matters to you. I have sat with dying emperors who whispered their regrets to empty rooms. Not regrets about their conquests or their losses, but regrets about their silence. The son they never praised, the friend they never thanked, the enemy they never forgiven. The truth they carried to their grave instead of sharing while it could make a difference. Here's what most people don't understand about truth. It has an expiration date. The opportunity to speak it doesn't last forever. The person who needs to hear it won't always be available. The moment when it could change everything won't wait for your convenience. Think about the relationships in your life right now. What truths are you withholding? What do you need to say but haven't? What conversation are you avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? What appreciation have you felt but never expressed? What apology have you composed in your mind but never delivered? That uncomfortable conversation you're avoiding? It's probably the most important conversation you could have. That difficult truth you're withholding? It might be exactly what someone needs to hear, that expression of love you're postponing. It could be the words that transform a relationship. But let me ask you this. What if you never get another chance? What if tomorrow is too late? What if the person you need to speak to isn't there next week? What if the opportunity for that conversation never comes again? How will you feel about your silence then? I learned early in my reign that truth delayed often becomes truth denied. The message that needed to be delivered to prevent a war. The warning that could have saved lives. The encouragement that might have changed someone's path. Every postponed truth is a potential tragedy waiting to unfold. The courage to speak truth isn't about being harsh or brutal. It's about being honest and helpful. It's about caring enough to be uncomfortable. It's about loving someone enough to risk their temporary displeasure for their lasting benefit. Your parents won't be around forever to hear how grateful you are for their sacrifices. Your friends won't always be available to know how much they've meant to you. Your children won't stay children long enough to receive all the wisdom you want to share. Your partner won't always be patient enough to hear your appreciation. Stop waiting for the perfect words. Stop rehearsing the ideal delivery. Stop postponing the necessary conversation. The perfect moment to speak truth is when you feel it. The right time to express love is when you feel it. The best time to offer forgiveness is when you're ready to give it. Here's what I know about unspoken truth. It doesn't get easier to say with time. It gets harder. The longer you wait, the more awkward it becomes. The more you rehearse, the more artificial it sounds. The more you delay, the less likely you are to ever speak it at all. Truth is not just information, it's connection. When you speak honestly, you bridge the gap between your inner world and the outer world. You invite others into authentic relationship. You create the possibility for real understanding and genuine intimacy. But truth is also urgency, because people leave, because circumstances change, because opportunities close, because time runs out while you're still preparing your speech. Speak now. Say what you mean while you can still say it. Express what you feel while it can still matter. Share what you know while it can still help. The words you don't speak today may be the words you regret not speaking forever. Forgive, not for them, but for your own peace. Die clean. Anger is a fire that burns the person who carries it, not the person it's aimed at. Resentment is a poison you drink, hoping someone else will suffer. Grudges are chains you forge for yourself while pretending to punish others. Every day you hold on to hurt. You choose pain over peace. I have been betrayed by friends, deceived by allies, and attacked by enemies. I have faced treachery from those I trusted most, and cruelty from those I helped most. The natural response is to nurture anger, to feed resentment, to cultivate hatred. But the natural response is also the destructive response. Here's what I learned ruling an empire. You can spend your life collecting grievances, or you can spend it building something meaningful. You cannot do both. Every moment spent dwelling on how you've been wronged is a moment stolen from creating what could be right. Forgiveness is not about excusing bad behavior. It's not about pretending hurt didn't happen. It's not about becoming naive or vulnerable to future harm. Forgiveness is about refusing to let someone else's actions control your inner peace. It's about choosing your own emotional freedom over their emotional debt. But let me ask you this. Who were you angry with? Right now? What grudge are you carrying? What resentment are you nursing? What hurt are you protecting? And more importantly, how is holding on to that pain serving you? What good is it creating in your life? What joy is it adding to your days? The person who hurt you has probably moved on. They're likely living their life, pursuing their goals, enjoying their days while you remain trapped in the moment they wronged you. They've forgotten the incident that you relive daily. They've healed from the conflict that still wounds you. They're free while you remain imprisoned by your own anger. This is the cruelest irony of resentment. It punishes you for someone else's crime. It sentences you to suffer for someone else's mistake. It makes you the victim twice, once when they hurt you, and continuously as you hurt yourself by refusing to let go. I have seen great men destroy themselves not through external enemies, but through internal hatred. They won every battle except the one in their own hearts. They conquered every foe except their own fury. They built mighty legacies that were undermined by personal bitterness. Here's what most people don't understand about forgiveness. It's not a gift you give to others. It's a gift you give to yourself. When you forgive, you don't set the other person free. You set yourself free. You don't excuse their behavior. You excuse yourself from carrying the burden of their behavior. Think about how much energy you spend on anger, how much time you invest in imaginary conversations where you tell off people who wronged you, how much mental space you dedicate to scenarios where they get what they deserve. How much emotional power you surrender to people who don't deserve any power over you at all. That energy could build instead of burn. That time could create instead of corrode. That mental space could be filled with possibilities instead of resentments. That emotional power could fuel your dreams instead of feeding your nightmares, but forgiveness requires courage. It's easier to stay angry because anger feels like strength. It's simpler to nurse grudges because resentment feels like justice. It's more comfortable to blame others because victimhood feels like virtue. But none of these feelings actually change anything except your own inner state, and not for the better. True strength is choosing peace over anger. Real justice is refusing to let others control your happiness. Genuine virtue is taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being, regardless of how others have treated you. Here's the practice that changes everything. Every night before you sleep, forgive the day. Forgive the people who frustrated you. Release the resentments that accumulated. Let go of the anger that built up. Free yourself from the emotional debris of the day so you can wake up clean tomorrow, because tomorrow is too precious to pollute with yesterday's poison. Your future is too valuable to mortgage for past grievances. Your peace is too important to sacrifice for someone else's mistakes. Forgive quickly, release readily. Let go completely. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve better than carrying their burden. You deserve the lightness that comes from traveling without unnecessary weight. You deserve the peace that comes from refusing to be anyone's emotional prisoner. Your last day won't be filled with noise. It will be defined by presence. The magnificent moments of life are not the loud ones. They're not the celebrated ones. They're not the ones that make headlines or generate applause. The magnificent moments are quiet, a conversation with someone you love, a sunset that takes your breath away, a moment of understanding that changes everything. These moments don't announce themselves, they whisper, and if you're not present, you miss them entirely. Most people live their lives waiting for the big moments. The promotion, the wedding, the vacation, the achievement. They postpone presence until something significant happens. But here's what I learned ruling an empire. Life happens in the spaces between the big moments. Real living occurs in the ordinary. Seconds that most people ignore completely. Right now, as you listen to these words, there are 1,000 small miracles occurring around you. Your heart is beating without your permission. Your lungs are breathing without your conscious control. Light is entering your eyes and creating the experience of sight. Sound waves are reaching your ears and becoming meaning in your mind. You are participating in the extraordinary, ordinary miracle of being alive. But are you present for it? Or are you mentally somewhere else, planning tomorrow, reviewing yesterday, worrying about problems that may never occur? Most people are physically in the present, but mentally in the past or future. They're here in body, but absent in awareness. I remember sitting in my tent before a great battle, watching a soldier carefully clean his armor. He wasn't thinking about the fight ahead or the fight behind. He was completely absorbed in the simple task before him. Polish, inspect, polish. Again, there was something beautiful about his complete attention to that ordinary moment. He was fully alive in a simple task, while others were half dead, with worry about complex futures. Here's what most people don't understand about presence. It transforms everything it touches. The ordinary meal becomes nourishment for the soul. The routine conversation becomes genuine connection. The familiar walk becomes a meditation. The simple task becomes a moment of peace. Presence is the difference between existing and living. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you were completely present? When did you last give your full attention to a single moment without your mind wandering? When did you last truly see the person you were talking to instead of thinking about what you would say next? When did you last taste your food instead of consuming it unconsciously? Your phone buzzes and steals your attention from the sunset. Your mind races ahead to tomorrow's meeting while your child tries to tell you about their day. You worry about future problems while missing present joys. You analyze past conversations while ignoring current ones. You live everywhere except where you actually are. This is not just distraction, it's tragedy. Because the moments you're missing now won't come again. This conversation with this person at this time will never repeat exactly this way. This phase of your child's life will never return. This season of your relationship will never recur. This day will never dawn again. The Roman poets understood something profound. The present moment is the only moment where life actually occurs. The past exists only in memory. The future exists only in imagination. But life, real, breathing, beating life, happens only now, only here, only in this moment that you're experiencing right now. Presence is not a luxury for people with extras. Time? It's not a privilege for those with peaceful lives. It's not a practice for perfect circumstances. Presence is the skill that determines whether you actually live your life or merely survive it. Here's the practice that changes everything. Whatever you're doing, do only that. When you're eating, just eat. When you're listening, just listen. When you're walking, just walk. When you're with someone, be completely with them. Stop multitasking your life into meaninglessness. Your last day on earth won't be filled with grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It will be filled with simple moments made precious by the recognition that they're ending. The touch of a hand, the sound of a voice, the sight of a face you love. The ordinary made extraordinary by finality. But why wait for your last day to treat moments as precious? Why wait for endings to appreciate beginnings? Why wait for absence to value presence? Every moment is someone's last moment. Every breath is someone's final breath. Every day is someone's only day. Live this moment as if it matters, because it does. Be present to this experience as if it's precious, because it is. Pay attention to this life as if it's the only one you'll get, because it is. Legacy is not in possessions. It's in principles. I inherited the greatest material wealth the world had ever seen. Gold beyond counting, palaces beyond imagination, territory beyond measure. When I died, none of it came with me. None of it defined my legacy. None of it determined how I would be remembered. What mattered was not what I possessed, but who I had become in the process of living. Walk through any ancient graveyard and read the inscriptions. Notice what they commemorate. Not the size of houses or the value of investments. Not the brands they wore or the cars they drove. The epitaphs that endure celebrate character. He was kind. She was brave. He told the truth. She helped others. The things that outlast death are the things that never belong to anyone. They were expressed through someone. Here's what most people don't understand about legacy. It's not built in the things you accumulate. It's built in the lives you touch. It's not measured by what you acquired. It's measured by what you contributed. It's not defined by what you owned. It's defined by who you became. But let me ask you this. If people could only remember 3 things about you, what would you want them to be? How you spent your money or how you spent your time? What you bought or what you built? What you collected or what you created? What you achieved for yourself or what you contributed to others? Most people spend their lives accumulating things. That will be forgotten within a generation. They work jobs they hate to buy stuff they don't need to impress people who don't matter. They sacrifice relationships for possessions, time for treasures, meaning for money. They build monuments to their materialism while their character crumbles. I have seen the richest men die the poorest deaths, surrounded by possessions but empty of purpose, wealthy in things but bankrupt in meaning, successful by worldly standards, but failures by the only standard that matters. Did they become who they were capable of becoming? The most successful people I knew were not the ones who accumulated the most wealth, but the ones who accumulated the most wisdom, not the ones who owned the most property, but the ones who developed the most character, not the ones who achieved the most fame, but the ones who created the most value for others. Your possessions will be distributed among strangers. Your achievements will be footnotes in forgotten records. Your wealth will inflate or deflate according to economic forces beyond your control. But your character will live on in the people you influenced. Your principles will echo in the decisions of those you taught. Your love will multiply in the hearts you touched. Here's what creates lasting legacy: the kindness you showed to people who couldn't help you advance, the truth you spoke when lies would have been easier, the courage you displayed when fear would have been safer, the growth you pursued when stagnation would have been comfortable, the service you gave when selfishness would have been more profitable. Think about the people who influenced you most profoundly. Was it because of what they owned or who they were? Was it their possessions that inspired you or their principles? Was it their wealth that changed you or their wisdom? The people who matter most in your memory mattered because of their character, not their collections. But character isn't built through accumulation. It's built through contribution. It's not developed by getting more. It's developed by giving more. It's not strengthened by taking. It's strengthened by serving. Every day you choose character over possessions. You invest in something that appreciates instead of depreciates. I could fill libraries with books about Roman wealth, but the writings that endure are about Roman virtues. I could describe in detail the palaces that have crumbled, but the principles that built the empire still guide civilizations today. Matter decays, character endures, things rust, truth lasts. The urgent question is not, how much can I accumulate before I die? But who can I become while I live? Not, what can I buy with my time, but what can I build with my life? Not what legacy will I leave in my possessions, but what legacy will I leave in my principles? Stop measuring your worth by what you own. Start measuring it by who you are. Stop building monuments to your materialism. Start building monuments to your character. Stop collecting things that will be forgotten. Start creating impacts that will be remembered. Your bank account will be closed. Your possessions will be sold. Your achievements will be archived. But your character will live on in everyone whose life you touched with yours. Be remembered not for what you had, but for who you were. Not for what you accumulated, but for what you contributed. Not for what you owned, but for what you became. That is the only legacy that matters. That is the only wealth that endures. That is the only possession that death cannot take from you, because you gave it away while you lived. Entertainment numbs. Purpose awakens. Reclaim your time like it matters, because it does. You are being robbed. Not by thieves in the night, but by thieves in plain sight. They don't steal your possessions. They steal something far more valuable. They steal your time, your attention, your consciousness itself. And you pay them for the privilege of being robbed. Every moment you spend consuming meaningless entertainment is a moment stolen from meaningful creation. Every hour you waste on trivial distractions is an hour you could have invested in significant growth. Every day you surrender to numbing activities is a day you forfeit the opportunity to build something lasting. I ruled an empire, but I learned that the greatest battle is not against external enemies, it's against internal entropy. The greatest war is not for territory, it's for attention. The most important victory is not over others, it's over the urge to escape from yourself through endless distraction. Here's what most people don't realize about distraction. It's not rest, it's resistance. When you escape into entertainment instead of engaging with purpose, you're not recharging, you're retreating, you're not recovering, you're avoiding, you're not relaxing, you're refusing to face the meaningful challenges that would make you grow. But let me ask you this. How much time did you spend yesterday consuming content versus creating value? How many hours did you invest in other people's dreams versus pursuing your own? How much energy did you give to being entertained versus being productive? How much of your precious life did you trade for temporary numbness? The modern world has weaponized distraction. Every app is designed to capture your attention. Every platform is engineered to harvest your time. Every device is optimized to create addiction rather than value. You think you're choosing entertainment, But entertainment is choosing you, and it's choosing to consume your life one mindless moment at a time. I have watched great minds destroy themselves not through external conquest, but through internal surrender. They possessed brilliant intellects but frittered them away on trivial pursuits. They had unlimited potential but limited themselves to unlimited consumption. They could have built empires, but instead built elaborate systems of distraction. Real entertainment used to require effort. You had to travel to see a play. You had to learn an instrument to make music. You had to develop skill to enjoy sports. Entertainment demanded something from you before it gave something to you. Now entertainment gives you everything while demanding nothing except your life, your time, your consciousness, your potential. Here's what creates fulfillment: engagement, not escape; challenge, not comfort; creation, not consumption; growth, not numbness; progress, not entertainment; meaning, not distraction. The activities that make you proud are never the ones that required nothing from you. Think about the moments when you felt most alive, most engaged, most satisfied. Were you consuming or creating? Were you being entertained or being challenged? Were you escaping from reality or engaging with it more deeply? The experiences that fulfill you always demand your best effort, not your passive attention. But distraction promises ease without effort, pleasure without pain, satisfaction without sacrifice. It lies with such sophistication that you believe numbness is happiness, escape is rest, and consumption is fulfillment. You mistake being entertained for being satisfied, being amused for being alive. The opportunity cost of distraction is enormous. Every hour spent mindlessly scrolling is an hour not spent developing skills. Every evening wasted on meaningless shows is an evening not invested in meaningful relationships. Every weekend surrendered to entertainment is a weekend not dedicated to building something lasting. Your time is finite. Your attention is limited. Your consciousness is precious. These are your most valuable resources, and you're giving them away for free to people who profit from your distraction. You're trading your potential for their entertainment. You're sacrificing your growth for their gain. Here's the practice. That changes everything. Before you engage with any form of entertainment, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what will I gain from this? Second, what will I lose by doing this instead of something meaningful? Third, will I be proud of how I spent this time when I'm looking back from my deathbed? Stop medicating your life with entertainment. Stop numbing your potential with distraction. Stop trading your consciousness for temporary escape. Your life is too valuable to waste on activities that add nothing to it. Reclaim your time. Protect your attention. Guard your consciousness. Use them for something that matters, something that grows you, something that contributes to the world instead of just consuming from it. You don't get another life to live meaningfully. This is it. This is your time. This is your chance. Stop wasting it on things that don't matter and start investing it in things that do. You don't have room for baggage on your last day. Release it. A ship loaded with unnecessary cargo moves slowly through the water. A runner carrying extra weight finishes last in the race. A mind cluttered with meaningless concerns achieves little of significance. Speed requires shedding what slows you down. Progress demands releasing what holds you back. Growth necessitates letting go of what keeps you small. Most people carry invisible weight that exhausts them daily. Relationships that drain their energy, commitments that bring no joy, possessions that require more maintenance than they provide value, habits that consume time without creating benefit, beliefs that limit possibility rather than expand it. They wonder why life feels heavy when they're carrying so much unnecessary burden. I learned this lesson commanding armies across vast distances. Every additional piece of equipment made the march slower. Every extra supply created more logistics. Every unnecessary item became a liability when speed mattered most. The most effective soldiers traveled light. They carried only what served their mission and discarded everything else. Here's what most people don't understand about letting go. It's not loss, it's liberation. When you release what doesn't serve you, you don't become poorer. You become freer. You don't lose options, you gain focus. You don't sacrifice opportunity, you create it. But let me ask you this. What are you carrying that you don't need? What relationship drains your energy without adding value to your life? What commitment consumes your time without advancing your goals? What possession requires your attention without enhancing your happiness? What habit steals your momentum without building your character? The weight you carry is always a choice. You choose to maintain relationships that exhaust you. You choose to honor commitments that don't align with your values. You choose to keep possessions that clutter your life. You choose to continue habits that diminish rather than develop you. Every day you choose to carry this weight is a day you choose to move slowly toward your goals. I have seen great leaders destroy themselves, not through enemy attacks, but through inability to release what no longer served them. They held on to outdated strategies when new approaches were needed. They maintained loyalty to people who had betrayed them. They preserved traditions that had become obstacles. They carried the past as baggage instead of using it as education. The things that slow you down are rarely dramatic. They're not obvious enemies or clear obstacles. They're subtle weights that accumulate gradually. The friendship that became one-sided, the hobby that lost its joy, the belief that stopped being useful, the routine that became a rut. They slow you down so gradually that you don't notice until you're barely moving at all. Here's what creates momentum: ruthless elimination of everything that doesn't contribute to your highest goals. Saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things. Releasing decent options so you can pursue exceptional ones. Letting go of what worked yesterday so you can discover what works today. Think about the times in your life when you moved fastest toward your goals. What were you not doing during those periods? What had you eliminated? What had you released? What had you stopped carrying? Speed comes not from adding more, but from subtracting what slows you down, but letting go. Requires courage because it feels like loss, even when it's actually gain. Ending the draining relationship feels like rejection. Quitting the unfulfilling job feels like failure. Discarding the unused possessions feels like waste. Breaking the comfortable routine feels like risk. You mistake familiar weight for necessary load. The Roman legions conquered the world not because they carried more than their enemies, but because they carried exactly what they needed, and nothing more. They were ruthlessly selective about what deserved space in their packs and what deserved space in their strategy. Everything had to earn its place by contributing to victory. Your life requires the same ruthless selection. Every commitment must earn its place by contributing to your growth. Every relationship must justify its space by adding value to your existence. Every possession must prove its worth by enhancing your happiness. Every habit must demonstrate its benefit by building your character. Stop carrying what you carried yesterday just because you carried it yesterday. Stop maintaining what you maintained last year just because you maintained it last year. Stop being who you were last decade just because you were that person last decade. Release what slows you down. Let go of what holds you back. Shed what weighs you down. Not tomorrow when it becomes more convenient. Not next week when you have more time. Not next year when you feel ready. Today, now. While you still have time to use the speed that comes from traveling light, your destination is too important to reach slowly. Your goals are too significant to pursue half-heartedly. Your life is too valuable to live encumbered by unnecessary weight. Let go. Move faster. Arrive sooner before time runs out. If you died tonight, would you be proud? Live so the answer is yes. Every morning when you wake up, you make a silent assumption that you'll see another sunset. Every time you say goodbye to someone you love, you assume it's temporary. Every night when you lay down to sleep, you expect to wake up tomorrow. But expectations are not guarantees. Assumptions are not promises. Hope is not certainty. Death comes without appointment. It doesn't wait for convenient timing. It doesn't postpone itself for unfinished business. It doesn't delay for unprepared people. Death arrives when it arrives, and the only question that matters then is, are you ready? I ruled the most powerful empire in human history, but I practiced dying every day, not out of morbid fascination, but out of practical wisdom. The person who is prepared for death is prepared for life. The person who can let go easily can also hold on meaningfully. The person who faces their mortality courageously can face their reality authentically. Here's the question that reveals everything about how you're living. If you died tonight, would you be proud of how you spent today? Would you be satisfied with the conversations you had? Would you be content with the love you expressed? Would you be fulfilled by the time you invested? Would you be at peace with the person you were? Most people would answer no. They spent today the same way they spent yesterday, postponing the important for the urgent, avoiding the meaningful for the comfortable, trading presence for distraction. They live today as a rehearsal for some future life that may never come, instead of as the only performance they're guaranteed to give. But let me ask you this. What would you do differently if you knew today was your last? What conversation would you have? What truth would you speak? What love would you express? What forgiveness would you offer? What gratitude would you share? What legacy would you create? The tragic irony is that you could do all of those things today, whether it's your last day or not. You could live with that intensity, that presence, that courage right now. You don't need to wait for a terminal diagnosis to live terminally meaningful life. You don't need to face death to start living fully. I learned this lesson watching soldiers before battle. The ones who fought most courageously were not the ones who expected to survive. They were the ones who had already made peace with dying. They had written their letters home. They had spoken their truth. They had resolved their conflicts. They had nothing left undone, so they had nothing left to fear. This is the power of daily preparation for death. Why it frees you to live boldly. When you've said what needs to be said, you can speak courageously. When you've loved completely, you can risk vulnerability. When you've given generously, you can receive gratefully. When you've lived meaningfully, you can die peacefully. Here's the practice that transforms how you live. Every night before sleep, review your day as if it were your last. Ask yourself, did I live with courage today? Did I love fully? Did I speak honestly? Did I contribute meaningfully? Did I grow personally? Did I prepare those I care about for my eventual absence? Most people avoid thinking about death because they believe it will make them sad. But the opposite is true. Thinking about death makes life precious. Accepting mortality makes moments meaningful. Preparing for endings makes beginnings beautiful. The person who befriends death becomes intimate with life. Your preparation for death is not morbid. It's magnificent. It's not depressing. It's liberating. It's not frightening. It's clarifying. When you're ready to leave, you're free to live. When you're prepared to let go, you're able to hold on appropriately. When you've accepted your impermanence, you can invest fully in your temporary existence. The ancient Romans had a practice, memento mori. Remember that you will die, not to create fear, but to create urgency, not to generate sadness, but to generate appreciation, not to promote paralysis, but to promote purpose. They understood that death certainty is life's greatest motivator. Stop living as if you have forever. Stop acting as if there's always tomorrow. Stop postponing what matters until later. Later may never come. Tomorrow may never arrive. Forever is a fantasy that keeps you from living fully today. Prepare for your final goodbye by living in a way that requires no apologies. Love so completely that no words are left unsaid. Give so generously that no debts remain unpaid. Live so authentically that no masks need removing. Contribute so meaningfully that your absence leaves the world noticeably different. If you died tonight, would you be proud? If not, change how you're living today. Because someday, maybe sooner than you think, tonight will be your last night. And the only thing that will matter then is how you lived while you could. Fear is fuel when properly harnessed. Let it lead you to bold action. Most people run from the fear of death. They distract themselves from its inevitability. They avoid thinking about its certainty. They postpone preparing for its arrival. But this is exactly backwards. The fear of death is not your enemy. It's your guide. It's not a weakness to overcome. It's a strength to harness. It's not a problem to solve. It's a teacher to learn. From I commanded armies in battles where death was not just possible, but probable. I quickly learned that the soldiers who pretended death couldn't touch them were the ones who died first. But the soldiers who acknowledged death's presence and used that awareness to fight more skillfully were the ones who survived and thrived. Fear of death, properly channeled, made them more alive, not less. Here's what most people don't understand about the fear of death. It's trying to help you. It's trying to wake you up. It's trying to show you what matters and what doesn't. It's trying to motivate you to stop wasting time and start investing it. It's trying to push you toward meaning before your opportunity for meaning expires. But let me ask you this. What does your fear of death tell you about how you're living? If the thought of dying frightens you, what specifically frightens you about it? Is it the things you haven't done, the words you haven't spoken, the love you haven't expressed, the potential you haven't realized, the contributions you haven't made? Your specific fears about death reveal your specific priorities for life. If you fear dying without accomplishing your dreams, then accomplishing your dreams should be your priority. If you fear leaving important words unsaid, then saying them should be urgent. If you fear wasting your potential, then developing it should be non-negotiable. I realized early in my reign that I feared not death itself, but a meaningless death. I didn't fear the ending. I feared an ending that signified nothing. I didn't fear dying. I feared dying without having truly lived. This fear became my compass. It pointed me toward decisions that would create meaning and away from choices that would waste time. The fear of death asks uncomfortable questions. Are you proud of how you're living? Are you becoming who you were meant to become? Are you contributing what you were meant to contribute? Are you loving as deeply as you're capable of loving? Are you growing as much as you're capable of growing? These questions are uncomfortable because they reveal the gap between who you are and who you could be. They expose the distance between how you're living and how you could live. They illuminate the difference between what you're contributing and what you could contribute. The discomfort is not punishment, it's motivation. Here's how to use the fear of death productively. Let it create urgency without panic, motivation without desperation, focus without obsession. When you feel the fear rising, don't push it away. Ask it what it's trying to teach you. Listen to what it's trying to tell you. Follow where it's trying to lead you. The fear of death says, time is limited, so stop treating it as if it's endless. The fear of death says, opportunities expire, so stop acting as if they're permanent. The fear of death says, relationships end, so stop taking them for granted. The fear of death says, potential can be wasted, so stop wasting yours. Most people experience the fear of death and feel smaller, but wisdom teaches you to experience the fear of death and become larger. To expand your courage, deepen your love, increase your contribution, and accelerate your growth. Fear of death should make you more alive, not less alive. I have seen men paralyzed by the fear of death and men energized by it. The difference is not in the presence or absence of fear, it's in the interpretation of fear. Those who see fear as evidence of weakness become weak. Those who see fear as fuel for boldness become bold. Your death is certain. Your fear of death is natural. Your choice is whether to let that fear shrink you or stretch you, diminish you or develop you, paralyze you or propel you toward a life worthy of the time you've been given. The clock is ticking. Your days are numbered. Your time is finite. Let the fear of this truth drive you toward bold action, meaningful contribution, and authentic living. Let it push you out of comfort zones and into growth zones. Let it motivate you to stop existing and start living. Fear of death is not the enemy of life. It's the friend of purposeful living. It's not the obstacle to happiness. It's the pathway to meaning. It's not the source of anxiety. It's the cure for apathy. Use it. Harness it. Let it guide you toward a life that would make death when it comes not a tragedy, but a completion. Not an interruption, but a conclusion. Not a failure, but a fulfillment. Every choice you make today either honors your time or wastes it. Discipline is not punishment. It's not restriction. It's not limitation. Discipline is freedom in its highest form. It's the liberation that comes from choosing your long-term growth over short-term comfort. It's the power that emerges when you align your daily actions with your deepest values. It's urgency transformed into consistent action. Most people misunderstand discipline completely. They see it as sacrifice when it's actually investment. They experience it as constraint when it's actually expansion. They interpret it as denial when it's actually affirmation. Affirmation of what matters most, what you're capable of becoming, what you're willing to do to get there. I built an empire through discipline, not the discipline of harsh punishment, but the discipline of consistent excellence, not the discipline of rigid control, but the discipline of purposeful choice. Every morning, I chose the actions that would build strength rather than seek comfort. Every day, I selected behaviors that would create lasting value rather than temporary pleasure. Here's what most people don't understand about discipline. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. You don't need to be disciplined in everything to benefit from discipline in the right things. You don't need flawless execution to create meaningful progress. You need consistent movement toward what matters most, especially when you don't feel like moving at all. But let me ask you this. What would your life look like if you were disciplined in just 3 areas? What if you consistently chose growth over comfort in your health, your relationships, and your work? What if you daily selected the harder path that leads somewhere over the easier path that leads nowhere? What if you made decisions based on who you want to become rather than how you currently feel? The gap between who you are and who you could become is filled with moments of choice, moment by moment, choice by choice. You either move toward your potential or away from it. Every decision to exercise instead of rest, to learn instead of be entertained, to create instead of consume, to give instead of take. These are the building blocks of transformation. Discipline is urgency in motion because you don't have unlimited time to waste on undisciplined living. Every day you choose comfort over growth is a day you don't get back. Every week you select entertainment over development is a week that could have changed your trajectory. Every month you pick the easy path over the meaningful path is a month closer to a life you didn't intend to live. I learned this commanding armies across hostile territory. The undisciplined soldier who skipped training was the one who died in battle. The unit that cut corners in preparation was the one that failed in execution. The army that prioritized comfort over readiness was the one that lost wars. Discipline wasn't about punishment, it was about survival and victory. Your life operates by the same principle. The discipline you avoid today creates the problems you'll face tomorrow. The shortcuts you take now become the obstacles you'll encounter later. The standards you compromise today determine the results you'll experience in the future. Here's what creates lasting change: small acts of discipline repeated consistently over time. Not heroic efforts that can't be sustained, but ordinary choices that compound into extraordinary results. Not perfect days that happen occasionally, but good days that happen regularly. The person who exercises for 20 minutes daily will transform their health more than the person who exercises intensely once a week. The person who reads for 15 minutes each morning will develop more wisdom than the person who occasionally reads an entire book. The person who practices their skill for 30 minutes consistently will advance faster than the person who practices for hours sporadically. But discipline requires you to choose discomfort in the service of growth. It asks you to do what you're committed to do regardless of how you feel about doing it. It demands that you honor your future self even when your present self wants immediate gratification. It requires treating your promises to yourself as seriously as your promises to others. Most people are disciplined when they feel motivated, but undisciplined when motivation fades. This backwards approach guarantees inconsistent results. True. Discipline means acting in alignment with your values, whether you feel like it or not. It means choosing based on your commitments rather than your emotions. It means doing what serves your goals regardless of your mood. The disciplined life is not a perfect life. It's a purposeful life. It's not a life without mistakes. It's a life that learns from mistakes. It's not a life without setbacks. It's a life that recovers from setbacks. It's not a life without challenges. It's a life that grows through challenges. Your time is running out. Your opportunities are diminishing. Your potential has an expiration date. The discipline you practice today determines whether you reach that potential or waste it. The choices you make right now create the person you'll become and the life you'll live. Stop waiting for motivation to rescue you. Stop expecting circumstances to become perfect. Stop hoping that discipline will feel easier tomorrow. It won't. The only thing that changes is your capacity to choose growth over comfort, purpose over pleasure, and meaning over the moment. Choose discipline while you still have time to benefit from it. Choose consistency while you still have opportunities to compound. Choose the harder path while you still have energy to walk it, because undisciplined time is wasted time, and wasted time is wasted life. Each day deserves a review. Did you live with courage or comfort? The unexamined life is not worth living, but the unreflected day is not worth repeating. Every evening you lay down to sleep without reviewing how you lived is an evening you miss the opportunity to learn. From your choices, celebrate your growth, and course-correct your direction. Reflection is not luxury. It's necessity for anyone who wants to live intentionally rather than accidentally. Most people end their days the same way they lived them, unconsciously. They fall asleep to distractions instead of falling asleep, to insights. They close their eyes to entertainment instead of opening them to examination. They drift into tomorrow without understanding today. This is how months pass without growth, years pass without progress, and lives pass without meaning. I ended every day as emperor with the same practice, reflection, not to torture myself with regret, but to learn from my experience, not to dwell on failures, but to extract wisdom from them, not to replay successes, but to understand what made them possible. Each day was a classroom, and evening reflection was the final lesson. Here's what most people don't understand about reflection. It's not about judgment. It's about learning. You're not reviewing your day to condemn yourself for imperfection, but to celebrate improvement and identify opportunity. You're not looking back to feel guilt, but to gain insight that guides tomorrow's choices. But let me ask you this. If today were your last day, would you be proud of how you lived it? Did you choose courage when fear presented itself? Did you speak truth when lies would have been easier? Did you show love when indifference would have been safer? Did you pursue growth when comfort was available? Did you serve others when selfishness was tempting? These questions matter because tomorrow is built on today. The person you become is shaped by the choices you make. The life you live is determined by the days you accumulate. If you don't learn from today, you're likely to repeat today's mistakes tomorrow. If you don't celebrate today's growth, you're unlikely to recognize tomorrow's progress. Evening reflection reveals patterns you miss in the moment, the triggers that consistently provoke anger, the situations that reliably create anxiety, the people who repeatedly drain your energy, the activities that predictably waste your time, the thoughts that habitually limit your potential. Patterns become visible only through consistent observation. I discovered through nightly reflection that my worst decisions came when I was tired. My best insights emerged when I was calm. My greatest growth occurred when I was challenged, and my deepest Satisfaction resulted when I served something larger than myself. These patterns became guideposts for better living. Here's the practice that transforms ordinary days into extraordinary growth. Every night before sleep, ask yourself 5 questions. First, what did I do today that I'm proud of? Celebrate progress, no matter how small. Second, what did I do today that I'm not proud of? Learn from mistakes without drowning in them. Third, what did I learn about myself today? Extract insight from experience. Fourth, how did I grow today? Acknowledge development in any area of life. Fifth, how can I live more intentionally? Tomorrow, set direction based on today's lessons. These 5 questions transform reflection from random remembering into purposeful learning. But reflection requires honesty, not brutal self-criticism, but clear self-awareness, not perfectionist standards, but authentic assessment, not comparisons with others, but comparison with your own potential. The goal is not to feel worse about yourself, but to live better. Starting tomorrow, the Roman Stoics believed that each day was a lifetime in miniature, complete with birth, growth, challenges, and death. They treated evening reflection as the wisdom-gathering phase of that miniature lifetime. They asked, how did I live this lifetime? What did I learn? How did I contribute? How can I apply these lessons to tomorrow's lifetime? Your days are not rehearsals for some future performance. They are the performance. Each one matters. Each one teaches. Each one either moves you toward who you want to become or away from it. The choice to reflect is the choice to learn. The choice to learn is the choice to grow. The choice to grow is the choice to make tomorrow better than today. Stop rushing from today into tomorrow without extracting today's lessons. Stop ending days without evaluating them. Stop sleeping without reviewing how you've lived. Your life is too valuable to live unreflectively, your time too precious to waste unconsciously, your potential too important to develop accidentally. Reflect like today was your last day, because someday it will be. And when that day comes, you want to be proud not just of how you lived it, but of how you learned from all the days that came before it. Detach from the temporary. You can't take any of it with you. Everything you possess is on loan. Your health, your relationships, your achievements, your possessions, all temporary arrangements between you and existence. The house you call yours will shelter someone else. The body you inhabit will return to dust. The roles you play will be performed by others. Understanding this is not depressing, it's liberating. Most people live as if their current circumstances are permanent. They cling to possessions as if ownership is eternal. They grasp at relationships as if love can prevent loss. They hoard achievements as if success is immortal. This clinging creates suffering when change inevitably comes, and change always comes. I ruled the greatest empire in history, but I practiced holding it lightly, not because I didn't care about Rome's success, but because I understood that empires rise and fall. Leaders come and go. Power transfers hands. The person who grips too tightly breaks when forced to let go. The person who holds lightly bends, but doesn't break. Here's what most people don't understand about attachment. It's not love. It's fear. When you cling desperately to something, you're not expressing appreciation for its value. You're expressing terror of its loss. True love holds gently. True appreciation enjoys fully without demanding permanence. True care nurtures without needing to control. But let me ask you this. What are you holding too tightly? What possession makes you anxious when you think about losing it? What relationship creates panic when you imagine its ending? What achievement defines your worth so completely that its loss would devastate your identity? What aspect of your life would you fight to preserve even when preserving it creates suffering? The practice of letting go begins long before you're forced to let go. It begins now, while you still have what you have. It starts with recognizing that everything you treasure is temporary, and this recognition allows you to appreciate it more. deeply rather than less deeply. When you know something won't last forever, you experience it more fully while it's here. I learned this lesson watching seasons change. Spring doesn't cling to winter. Summer doesn't resist autumn. Each season arrives fully, expresses completely, then yields gracefully to what comes next. Nature teaches the art of letting go, experiencing intensely without possessing permanently. Your life follows the same pattern. You will experience many seasons, seasons of growth and seasons of loss, seasons of building and seasons of releasing, seasons of acquiring and seasons of surrendering. The wisdom is not to prevent the seasons from changing, but to live each season fully while it lasts. Here's the practice that prepares you for loss. Daily release something small. Give away an item you rarely use. Let go of a minor grudge. Release an expectation that creates frustration. Forgive a small offense. Each small act of letting go strengthens your capacity for larger releases when they become necessary. The person who practices releasing daily develops muscles of detachment. When major losses occur, and they will occur, these muscles are strong enough to handle the weight. But the person who only practices clinging struggles enormously when forced to let go. They have developed only muscles of attachment, which serve them poorly when detachment becomes necessary. But letting go is not the same as not caring. Detachment is not indifference. Non-attachment is not disconnection. You can love fully while holding lightly. You can care deeply while expecting nothing. You can invest completely while being prepared to lose everything. This is the paradox that creates both passion and peace. I cared deeply about Rome's welfare while accepting that my reign would end. I loved my family intensely while knowing our time together was limited. I pursued my goals passionately while understanding that my achievements would eventually be forgotten. This combination of engagement and detachment created both effectiveness and equanimity. The attachment that causes suffering is not the connection itself. It's the demand that the connection last forever. The problem is not loving people. It's refusing to accept that loving people includes losing people. The issue is not enjoying possessions. It's believing that possessions provide permanent security. Everything you have will eventually be taken from you. Your youth, your health, your relationships, your achievements, your possessions, your life itself. This is not a threat, it's a fact. The question is whether you will spend your remaining time grasping desperately at what you can't keep or appreciating fully what you temporarily have. Practice letting go now while choice makes it easier. Release your grip on permanence while you can still choose detachment over being forced into it. Learn the art of holding lightly while you still have things to hold. Develop the capacity for graceful surrender while surrender is still voluntary, because someday, perhaps sooner than you think, you will be asked to let go of everything. On that day, your capacity for release will determine whether your departure is struggle or surrender, agony or grace, clinging or letting go. Practice now. Release. Daily, hold lightly, love fully, appreciate deeply, and when the time comes to let go completely, you'll be ready. This might be it. So love fiercely, act boldly, leave nothing unsaid. Today could be your last day. Not as a morbid possibility, but as a magnificent opportunity. What would you do differently if you knew with certainty that tonight you would close your eyes for the final time? How would you speak? How would you love? How would you spend these precious hours? How would you treat this unrepeatable day? The truth is simple and stark. You are not promised another day. Tomorrow is an assumption, not a guarantee. Next week is a hope, not a certainty. Next year is a dream, not a promise. All you have is today. All you control is now. All you can count on is this moment. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Most people live as if they have unlimited tomorrows. They postpone the important conversations, delay the meaningful actions, and save their best energy for some imaginary future when conditions will be perfect. They treat today as practice for real living that will happen later. but later may never come. Later is a luxury you may not be able to afford. I ruled an empire, but I never forgot that emperors die. I commanded armies, but I remembered that commanders fall. I made decisions affecting millions, but I knew that my decision-making days were numbered. This awareness didn't paralyze me, it freed me. It freed me to act boldly, love deeply, and live fully because I understood that opportunities don't wait for convenient timing. Here's what the awareness of mortality teaches you. Urgency is not panic, it's precision. When you truly understand that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop giving your energy to people who don't deserve it. You stop investing in activities that don't feed your soul. You become surgically precise about what deserves your attention and what doesn't. But let me ask you this final question. If you died tonight, what would you regret not doing? What words would remain unspoken? What love would remain unexpressed? What dreams would remain unpursued? What contributions would remain unmade? What growth would remain unrealized? What life would remain unlived? These regrets reveal your priorities. They show you what matters most deeply to you. They expose the gap between how you're living and how you want to live. They illuminate the distance between who you are and who you could become. Most importantly, they show you exactly what you should focus on today. The person who truly understands mortality doesn't become paralyzed by fear. They become motivated by love. Love for the people in their life. Love for the work they're meant to do. Love for the experiences they want to have. Love for the person they're becoming. Love for the time they've been given. This love becomes the fuel for bold living. When you act as if today might be your last, several things happen. You speak more honestly because you can't afford to waste words on lies. You love more openly because you can't risk leaving love unexpressed. You contribute more meaningfully because you can't bear to waste your potential. You live more fully because you can't tolerate existing halfway. This is not about living recklessly. It's about living intentionally. It's not about abandoning responsibility. It's about embracing what's truly responsible. It's not about ignoring consequences. It's about considering the consequences of not living fully while you have the chance. I have seen people receive terminal diagnoses and suddenly become more alive than they had ever been. Not because they were dying, but because they finally started living. They stopped pretending they had unlimited time. They stopped postponing what mattered. They stopped living in preparation for life and started actually living. But you don't need a terminal diagnosis to live with terminal urgency. You don't need a doctor's warning to wake up to life's brevity. You don't need a countdown to create urgency. You just need to acknowledge what you already know. Your time is finite, your opportunities are limited, and your chance to make a difference has an expiration date. The clock is ticking for all of us. The question is whether you'll hear it ticking and feel fear, or hear it ticking and feel freedom. The freedom to stop pretending you have forever. The freedom to start living like today matters. The freedom to love, act, create, and contribute while you still can. This might be your last day, not as a threat, but as a gift. The gift of urgency, the gift of clarity, the gift of knowing what truly matters when time is running out. The gift of being forced to choose between what's meaningful and what's merely comfortable. Love fiercely while you can love. Act boldly while you can act. Speak truthfully while you can speak. Give generously while you can give. Live fully while you can live. Create beautifully while you can create. Contribute meaningfully while you can contribute. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. If this message spoke to you, subscribe for more powerful mindset content. Let us know in the comments what part hit you the hardest.